Again, Chris Burkhardt here with you. If you want to join the conversation with us, you can go to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio, and you can join the conversation there. And, of course, you can grab your phone, dial 503-248-0620. And then, of course, last but not least, you can follow me on X at Chris J. Burkhardt. Let's take a look at what happened here tonight as the Blazers fall to the Pelicans 110-97. Game one of a three-game homestand to end the year. And this game, it kind of played out similar to some of the games that have been going on as of late for the Blazers, and that is, kind of starting out hot, looking pretty good. You're in striking distance and right where you want to be at halftime, and then the second half happens and the wheels kind of fall off. A little bit of fatigue may have set in. I mean, the Blazers played just 8 players tonight. It was their starting 5 of Murray, Walker, Ayton, Henderson, and Rupert, and then Banton, Minaya, and Reith off of the bench. As for the Pelicans, they basically played their full lot. No one played, 4 players played more than 30 minutes. Scoot Henderson, for example, in this one, he had to play 40 for your Trailblazers. Not a lot of guards to go around. Scoot Henderson, though, did have a pretty darn good game, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit when we get to what's the scoot. But let's take a look at what happened. Blazers, they trailed the Pelicans 28-27 at the end of the first quarter. They did bounce back a little bit, outscored the Pelicans 28-24 in the second, and that's a pretty good little rebound for them, if you will, right? Get right back where they need to be. They grab the lead back. They go in. Things look good. But in the second half, Pelicans came out, outscored the Blazers 35-23 in the third quarter, and then at that point, it was basically just smooth sailing the rest of the way. There was never really much of a threat from the Blazers from that point on. But at the same time, you watch the game, I watched the game, I think definitely fatigue set in on this one. Plus the Pelicans, man. The Pelicans got some absolute horses over there that they can latch onto. Taking a look at the box score for your Trailblazers, Chris Murray had 14 points and one of the craziest buzzer beater bank in threes as there's half a second on the shot clock, so he just hucks it up, banks it in, and he got everybody in the arena on their feet for a second. Jabari Walker had just 4 points, but he did have 10 rebounds. DeAndre Ayton 30 points and 13 rebounds. A very impressive game from DA, which is something that is kind of become consistent as of late for the Blazers. Big man. It's a 14th career game for him with at least 30 points in his 5th of the season. So not a bad performance from DeAndre Ayton. Also, Rayon Rupert, he had 6 points. Delano Banton, a little bit of a rough game for him, but he did chip in 12 off of the bench. Justin Maya had 3. Dwap Reith did have 12. And then, of course, Scoot Henderson, 19 points and a new career high, 15 assists. He had a double-double at half and then set a new career high of 12 assists. In the third quarter, there were still 8 minutes to play, and he had a new career high, so it was a very good game from him. Of course, he also did have 8 turnovers. So again, that's something we'll talk about here when we get to What's the Scoot in just a few minutes. Hopefully by that time, Chad will be up here as well and break that one down for us. Taking a look at the Pelicans, it was, let's look here. I got too many screens going on. Got to make sure no one's calling in, too. But taking a look at the Pelicans, Trey Murphy had one hell of a game. 31 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 9 of 17 shooting. Had some very impressive deep threes. Every time the Blazers hit a three, he kind of got one to answer back, so that one made sense for him. It was nice to see if you're a Pelicans fan. Not so nice to see if you're a Blazer fan, but he did have a pretty good game. C.J. McCollum, always a fan favorite when he gets to return. He had 29 points. Zion Williamson, 22 points, 7 rebounds as well. Jonas Valanciunas, 11 points. And off the bench was pretty slim pickings off the Pelicans bench. Dyson Daniels, Jose Alvarado, Larry Nance Jr., and Jeremiah Robinson-Earl combined for just 10 points off the Pelicans bench. The biggest lead of the night for the Pelicans, 20 points. Biggest lead for your Blazers was 11 when they led 39-28. 8. Now, the breakdown of the team stats here, see if we can see anything that sticks out to us. Total rebounding was basically a wash. It was 47-45 in favor of the Blazers. Each team had 13 offensive rebounds. Blazers had 2 more defensive rebounds. The assists game, again, very similar game, 28 to 25 in favor of the Blazers. Where it does have your discrepancy was in personal fouls, and that was 19 for the Blazers to just 9 for the Pelicans. So that one always hurts. And then, of course, turnovers always rear their ugly little heads. The Blazers had a total of 22 turnovers, 21 by players, 1 team turnover, and that accounted for 33 points for the New Orleans Pelicans. And that free throw discrepancy is another one of those things that I have mentioned so many times as of late has really doomed the Blazers. And it did so again tonight when you look at the foul discrepancy, and then that obviously leads to the free throws. The Pelicans hit 27 of 29 free throw attempts. The Blazers, 7 of 8. That's right, 7 of 8 compared to 27 of 29. Pelicans coming in plus 20 at the free throw line. And you can look at the box score and say they lost by 10. They trailed by as many as 20. And it's interesting, if you trail by as many as 20 and your free throw discrepancy was 20, I can definitely see why that would happen. I don't understand it. I wish it would fix that. I don't know how you fix it. Attack the rim more, do what you need to do. But I don't like the free throw discrepancy being so big for your Portland Trail Blazers. Taking a look at YouTube, Phil chimes in, says he'd like to see more block shots from Ayton and a lot less giveaways from Scoot. Turnover Henderson. Yeah, he did have turnovers. He had a couple of interesting turnovers tonight. There was some that were definitely like miscoms, but I don't know if they were on him. Like there was one late there to Delano Banton. He had Delano Banton off on the wing. The ball was coming around. And if you paid attention to how they were running their offense today, at least in my eyes, Phil, there was a lot of times where they were not passing to a player. They were passing to where a player was supposed to be, which I like. That adds fluidity to an offense, and you see good offenses do that. And so Scoot passed out to where Delano was supposed to be, and then Delano didn't move. So even though it's a turnover on Scoot, that one could have been chalked up to Delano. And you had a couple of those tonight. Again, I'm not giving him a wash by any means. I want to see less turnovers for him. I've been on that one for a minute. But I'm not going to be too upset that he had 8 turnovers when he was playing 40 minutes, was basically a focal point, was gassed by the end, but still managed to have quite a few assists. And he would have had far more assists, too, if every single time he passed the ball, the other guy made the shot. Those are those potential assists that we've talked about with Tom Habistro many a time. So I'm not going to be too upset. Again, I do wish he was a little bit cleaner in the assist realm and taking care of the ball there. But, man, anytime you go out there and you can throw 15 assists and have a good game like that, I'll take it for a rookie. Remember, coming in on this one, he had 4 20 and 10 games. 4 20 and 10 games. And he's the only rookie to have 1. Like no other rookie has a 20 and 10 game. He has 4 of them. He was a point away from having a 5th tonight. So not a bad game from Scoot Henderson at all. If you want to join in on the conversation, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. You can also go to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio, and get in on the chat right there and tell me how you're feeling. We'll take a quick break here on the 5th quarter. When we come back, it's time for your shot of the night. Then we'll go into What's a Scoot? And the boss man, Chad Doing, will join me. I'll get his thoughts on this one. He had a front row seat, just like I did, but not as good as the seat Justin Myers was pimping on Twitter today, Chad.
Hope he enjoys that wake-up call. 3 a.m.
I did see your tweet to him. He's trying to tweet at us and flex. You're like, yeah, well, you're past your bedtime, my man.
He'll be on air here in about 4 hours.
Absolutely. Right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Yeah, that was quite the game for the Trailblazers. I feel like that's been the story of this team as of late. They play a good first quarter, kind of play a good first half, and then the wheels just kind of fall off late when they don't have a lot of depth. They're playing, 7, 8 guys, and the other team just flexes on them a little bit.
That's exactly what it is. They've shown flashes of good play. We saw it again tonight, especially in that first half. 18 assists. Scoot Henderson with the double-double in the first half. DeAndre Ayton was sensational in the first 24 minutes. But the problem is when you're relying on youth and you lack depth and you don't have that one guy outside of Ayton who can get you a guaranteed bucket, they go through these long stretches, these long droughts. In the fourth quarter, they had 2 field goals through the first 5:27 of the quarter, and they're just not good enough to overcome that. And then when you compound that with 23 turnovers, you're just going to get yourself behind the 8 ball, and that was the big issue tonight. And it's unfortunate because a lot of people are going to focus in on the 8 turnovers that Scoot had tonight. I thought Coach Billups did a good job after the game of taking some of the heat off him on that, but that takes the shine away from some of the other work that he did in the first half, where he had a couple of great entry passes to both Ayton and Jabari. We saw the 2-man game with Scoot and Ayton, working really well. And Chris Murray tonight with a sensational performance. He's one of those guys who I think has benefited the most from the extra minutes he's gotten, with 26, 27 straight games of getting the start. So a lot of good things tonight. But again, when you're up against a good team and you commit 23 turnovers and you're relying on youth to produce offense for you over the course of 48 minutes, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, we'll get to Chris Murray here in a second because I got some thoughts on him. But it is what's the Scoot. So let's talk Scoot for a second. Again, the 8 turnovers, not great, but let's put kind of tonight in perspective for you here. He had 15 assists, which now makes him the record holder for a Trailblazers rookie. That is the most assists in a single game, passing Ramsey and Bill Walton. So that's pretty good territory to be in there. 15 assists in a single game. Also, he is Henderson is the youngest player at 20 years and 66 days with at least 15 assists in a game since Trae Young, who was 20 years old and 61 days, had 17 on November 19th, 2018. So there's a pretty good gap there. Also, Scoot did have a double-double in the first half, and that was the first rookie since Lonzo Ball in 2017 to have a first half with 10 points and 10 assists. So, again, you can look at those turnovers and you can pick those apart. I do think, again, the passes started to get a little more tired as the game went on. But, I mean, you can chalk this up that it's still a pretty elite game.
Yeah, there's no question. He was terrific. I thought his pacing over the first half was terrific. He was making decisive decisions. You can still see there are times where I think he's trying to dissect the defense and figure it out, so he'll dribble and hold on to the ball a little bit too long, and that causes some of the movement and the actions to break down in the offense. But I've watched his shot now over the last couple of months. He's clearly put in a lot of time on that. And what was even better tonight, he was able to finish in the paint around the rim a couple of times, which he struggled with throughout the year. So over the last 3 or 4 games, he's playing much better basketball. And I think for him to be able to have that stretch, you and I talked about this for a long time, the importance of him getting minutes coming off the adductor strain and being able to finish the year on a high note as he enters the offseason is critical for him.
Yeah, absolutely. As you talk about his shot, the three-point shot, obviously still a there we go. The back tightened up mid-sentence.
Man, I tell you what, you've been just a hurting unit
I know,
today.
my body's beat. But, no, it's interesting because the shot has improved. The three-point shot still is a work in progress. And I think, interestingly enough, most of his shots tonight were short, so get those legs into you, get those feet set. I think those will start to fall. But what I've noticed over the last few weeks, I mean, really all season, but he started to show it off a little bit more, is that he's pretty efficient in that 15-foot range, very similar to Ayton. And it's like, okay, well, if you can get the other stuff going, you can get shooters around you. You got 2 guys at guard and center who are pretty good in that mid-range spot with this underutilized area of the court anymore.
Boy, DeAndre Ayton, I'm having so much fun watching him play.
He's so good.
Think about the two-man game. If Ayton continues to play with this type of purpose, and that's going to be the big question into next year based on the lineup and who they have and how the roster changes, how do you keep Ayton disengaged when he may not be the number one option on the floor? But if he's engaged like this and you've got the improvements from Scoot, that could be your future two-man game, Scoot, Ayton, moving into the future with this team.
Yeah, absolutely, and they showed it off tonight. And another name that you pointed out that I thought had a pretty good game tonight and has definitely been a benefactor of these extra minutes is Chris Murray. And I'm actually really excited for the rest of the season here because in Sacramento he's going to get a chance against the Kings, who are still trying to figure out where they're going to slot in the playoff. I mean, they might be in a situation where they're battling for that final seed too. And so he's going to get another chance to play against his brother. And if you go back to, like, early in the season, right, Chauncey put him in with what, like a minute and a half left. He's like, yeah, he just deserved it, get a chance to go out there and play against his brother. Well, now you get a game in Sacramento. Mike, brother on the court. You're a starter. He's a starter. And you go out and show him. So I'm excited for that and him to, end the season on a high.
I liked the draft pick when they selected Chris Murray, and I was excited to see him in a Trailblazer uniform. I mean, when he began the year, Chris, it was rough, and you could tell that he was trying to figure things out. He got the nickname Mr. Perfect coming out of camp because the coaches, they tell him something once, and then he gets it, and he's able to put it to work. But with this time that he's gotten on the floor, look at what he's showing now. He's starting to make shots, 4 or 6 from downtown tonight. The team is better defensively when he's on the floor. He's showing some toughness, being able to rebound. He's just in the right place at the right time. I like what he has been able to do down the stretch, and I'm excited to see him, like the rest of the young guys, full off-season work going into camp and see what he can do next year.
Yeah, our 6 degrees of separation. We cover the team, so we can argue and say we know Chris Murray. Chris Murray went to Iowa. Caitlin Clark, so 6 degrees of separation. We know Caitlin Clark, Chad.
I guess we do. The transcendent one.
So. There you go. If you want to join the conversation, youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio. You can join the conversation in the chat there. You can tweet at both myself and Chad if you prefer, or you can grab your telephone, dial 503-248-0620, and we'll get you on the phone as well. And that's where we'll head right now. Tall Tim has called in and has been waiting patiently. Tall Tim, the floor is yours.
You know that song, Difference a Day Makes? I think for Scoot, it's like a difference a half makes. he had a great half. It's probably the best half he's had, right, as a rookie. I would say for sure. Him and Ayton were working well together. He was finding his moments to make shots. And then New Orleans, I mean, they've got to win their games, right? They've been struggling. So they've ramped up the pressure, and they're like, okay, that little easy loft into Ayton, that's over.
Yeah.
And he had a really hard time adjusting because nobody else was doing anything. I mean, Chris Murray, I'll give him chops. He's just starting to kind of find his poise, I should say. I mean, he always looks poised, but now he's trying to kind of actually get some results out of that, of just like you said, being in the right spot, right time, and making his shots. But nobody else could do anything. And then the turnovers and whatnot. We just got behind the eight ball, trying to make plays that weren't there, and then the movement, like you said, stopped because he was his mind is going, and like that's great. The game slows down for you, but sometimes it slows down just a little bit too much for you. The NBA, there isn't much margin for error. And then he started hunting his 20th point, just kept chucking shots up. So let's forget the second half a little bit. That was a great game for Scoot. It just shows you the potential he has once he gets all the pieces together, and he gets more fluid with his offense, so he's not always worrying about whether the shot's going to go in all the time. So let's just chop off the second half. What a difference a half makes. And what do we got? 2 more games to go?
Got 3. Got 2 home games and then on the road in Sacramento.
On the road, yeah, 3 games. So, I think obviously they're not playing guys that maybe could play. Let's don't be silly about this. But this has been the best way to develop the talent we have, and we got a lot of talent that needs to get some run. I mean, it's too bad guys like Sharp couldn't be in the mix there, but kind of have an idea what he can do.
Right.
Do you think he's going to play summer league this year? I don't.
I expect both Scoot and Shaden Sharp to play summer league this year, and I don't know that for sure yet because it hasn't been named, but that's what I want, and I would be surprised if they don't. Don't you think Scoot needs a little more burn down there?
I definitely think they do. And didn't Pat Connaughton and Jake Layman both go down there for a third year, played sparingly, and then kind of got their run in the first 2 games, and then kind of let the young guys in. So yeah, I don't think it hurts at all to see some of that. It's hard work in a game setting.
I'd probably maybe for Shaden too. It's just like some confirmation that
he needs to play.
Yeah, you are a very dominant player, right?
There's no question. You got to be able to play, and really for any of these young guys, whether it be Scoot or Shaden, especially Shaden with the time off this year with the core surgery, the young guys just need more time. They need to continue to play, and they got to put in a lot of work. And I think this offseason for Scoot Henderson is probably the biggest offseason of his young career. He's got to really take that next step, that big leap from year 1 to year 2.
Absolutely, but I just think it's very encouraging this last run. You can finally see what everybody was talking about in the kid, but just the dynamic flow of this team, the ups and the downs, and the obviously trying to get the best draft pick possible. That puts the kid in a pretty tough spot to show us all of his skill set. So I just say, look, I want to say he's at least got a B this year for sure. But we'll all evaluate that after we go on the road to Sacramento. I look forward to talking to you guys before the season's over, and I'll let somebody else get on the air.
All right, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it, Tall Tim. I would expect both Scoot and Shane to be down there at Summer League.
Yeah, in some capacity. I think, like I said, I think we've seen it before, and you just kind of hinted at it, and this is something I said pregame, Chad, and get your thoughts on it too. And that is that I think this might be – for Scoot specifically, I think this might be the most important offseason for a Blazers rookie in forever, because the expectation and needing that number 3 pick to hit so that your rebuild continues to go in the right direction. You saw really good improvements from Jabari Walker first year to this year. You saw when he was healthy, really good improvements from Shaden Sharp from his rookie year to this year. But Scoot has kind of been handed the keys to be the guy, right? They want him to be the face, and he is now facing that first true offseason. So I think for him to hit and him to show that improvement, and the Blazers to say, yeah, we got that pick right, this might be the most important offseason for a Blazer rookie in a very, very long time.
There's no question, and you're going to require him to understand what the team wants him to do. He's going to have to put in a lot of work with his father, who is his primary coach and guy that works with him, and he's going to have to play a lot, continue to work on the individual drills, the shooting, and then hopefully with all that work going into camp next year, having a better understanding of where he needs to be and what he needs to do, then we'll start to see everything really start to slow down. And Tall Tim mentioned it. You saw glimpses of that tonight. But the turnovers, too, I mean, at some point you want your point guard to
to not turn the ball over?
Yeah. I mean, there were just too many easy buckets. I mean, the turnovers tonight, you give up 33 points off turnovers, you're not going to win.
No, not only that, man, the free throw discrepancy. I mean, the Pelicans were plus 20 at the line. That changes games.
Yeah, and that's not because the officials were just god-awful. That was the Pelicans being much more aggressive at the point of attack, and they were looking to get to the rim. And when you do that, you always want to be the aggressor because you put the pressure on the officials to reward that type of play.
No, absolutely. You're spot on there. If you want to join the conversation, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number, or go to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio. You can get your comments there. We'll take a quick break here on the fifth quarter. When we come back, we'll hit you with an NBA scoreboard report, get you up to date on all the latest happenings around the NBA. Chris Burkhardt here with Chad Doing on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620.
Your local Toyota dealers believe food
Time now for a scoreboard report, getting you up to date on all the latest happenings around the NBA. It was a full slate of games tonight, so buckle up, get ready for this one. First off, in Charlotte, the Mavericks grabbed the 130-104 victory over the Hornets. Not a bad performance from Luka and company. In Philly, the 76ers 120. The Pistons 102. Embiid with 37 points to lead the 76ers. In Toronto, the Pacers 140, the Raptors 128. In Atlanta, the Heat 117, the Hawks 111 in double overtime. In Milwaukee, the Bucks 104, the Celtics 91. The Celtics kind of mailing this one in because they've locked up everything. But the Bucks have a scare here as Giannis went down with a non-contact injury. He's getting an MRI on his calf to make sure there's no injury there. But Milwaukee is holding their breath to see what happens to their star. In Chicago, the Knicks 128, the Bulls 117. In Houston, the Rockets 118, the Magic 106. Spurs grab a 102-87 victory over the Grizzlies. And again, keep in mind how the schedule plays out. I've told you this one all year long. The Spurs had 2 winnable games the rest of the way. This one, and then they end the season against Detroit. And guess what? They got this one over the Grizzlies. So keep in mind and watch that one closely because it could have an impact on the final standings for your Blazers. The Wizards follow the Timberwolves 130-121 in Minnesota. The Thunder 112, the Kings 105 in OKC. In Utah, the Nuggets grab a 111-95 victory over the Jazz in a battle of teams playing for play-in and possibly playoff position, trying to get out into that top 6. The Warriors 134, the Lakers 120. In Phoenix, the Clippers 105, the Suns 92. And I don't know if you saw this one, Chad, but at one point in the first quarter, the Clippers were up 35-4.
Yeah, and they led by as many as 37. And then what's crazy, the Suns came out and outscored the Clippers by 17, 35-18 push into the third quarter. They got the lead as far. They got it down as far as 9, but they couldn't get over the hump. Just too much to overcome with that horrendous start.
No, absolutely. Still incredible to look at that final score, 105-92. And then, of course, your final score here at Moda Center, Pelicans 110, Trailblazers 100. And that was your scoreboard report. And, if you want to join the conversation, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. You can also go to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio, and get your comments there. And that is where Inner Imposter Music says 15 assists on a heavily depleted and young roster tells me that Scoot's seeing the floor better. Also, great distributors should attract better players around them from the league. I don't think that's wrong. I mean, if you're a shooter and you got a guy who knows how to find you when you're open, that's going to speak to people. And also, I mean, the similar, he's sitting there on the floor sometimes with a floor of guys that aren't known shooters. Also, a little hiccup that I noticed tonight that I started to laugh is I actually was watching the offense, Chad, and I'm like, they're moving the ball around pretty well. I like the way they're getting the ball around the horn. A lot of time they're grabbing the ball, they're looking for the next pass until the ball hits the hands of Justin Minaya, and then he is looking for, all right, where am I going with it? And then he might pass out of it.
I was trying to think about that yesterday. Like, what type of team do you want to have surrounding Scoot? I'm assuming with his style of play, like, he's never going to be the number one option, right?
I don't think so, and I don't think that's what the team wants from him. I think they want him to be the number one setup guy, the guy who truly quarterbacks the offense and has the ability to go out there and score 20 a night. But, like, if he is more if he becomes like a Mike Conley, right? Because Mike Conley's been one of the best guards in the league his entire career. He's been in a West that's been stacked with guards, so that's why he wasn't all-stars every night. But everywhere he's gone, he's commanded the offense. He's set people up. He's made everyone around him better. Think about it, Chad. Memphis was great. He goes to Utah. They play well. He goes to Minnesota. All of a sudden, they're one of the best teams in the conference. And he's kind of that unsung hero. And if Scoot can be that guy that sets everybody up, and you have someone else like an Anthony Edwards next to him, and that can be your Shea, who is your go-to scorer, but you still are good enough to have some gravity, it's going to make everybody better.
Or back in the day, Steve Nash, when he was in Phoenix, where he could score if you needed him to, but he was setting the table for guys like Amari Stoudemire and Sean Marion, guys who were the primary options on offense. Maybe he can be that type of player. It's just weird because in today's NBA, most of the point guards are primary scorers as well.
Yeah.
But that's just not Scoot's game.
And you look at Nash, right? And Nash was a stud, really, when it came to scoring the ball. He just didn't need to because he was so good at the assist game. And then in that Phoenix team, they also had They had Boris Diaw, they had Leandro Barbosa. They had really good shooters around him that weren't, outside of your main scorers that made him better. And Jason Kidd, pretty much everywhere he went, he was a guy who didn't need to score in bunches, but he could when he needed to. But his main focus was to get everybody involved and run the offense. And if Scoot does that, that's great. I don't think they want him to be the number one scorer, but if he has the ability to still go score 20, that's great.
I agree. So I'm just excited to see what the leap can be. He's still a work in progress. I just hope that I can't wait to see what he looks like next year after a full offseason of work to see what the offensive game looks like. For me, hopefully the outside shooting will come because he's going to have to continue to develop the three-point shot. What I want to see mostly from him on offense next year, a better understanding of when to leave his feet in the paint and being able to finish around the rim at a higher rate with contact, and then also develop a little bit better touch on, those teardrops or those floaters that you have to put up over the big guys in the painted area. So if he can continue to work on that, then we'll
you're spot on too. And you were reminded today watching C.J. McCollum when he throws up that little floater from the free throw line, how elite he is at that and how nice of a shot that is to have in your bag.
Tonight was a good reminder of how crafty C.J. McCollum is on the offensive end.
Yeah.
He can shoot the three. He can work off the bounce. He's got the floater, the runners in the lane with either hand, the right or the left. He can do everything.
Yeah. And the defensively, the Pelicans were pretty locked in. As Tim said, I think they were playing a little more zone early in the game, and Scoot was picking it apart. And then you look in that second half, what happened in that second half? They went a lot more man-to-man, and they put Alvarado on him, who's an absolute pest defensively. My gosh. He's so quick. He is – he just strikes like that on you and gets a steal or forces you to go a different direction. A very, very good defender. The team needs more shooters in the long run to be a truly competitive team, but defensively, I love the way that team's set up. Herb Jones is one of my favorite, just like unsung guys in the league. He's so darn good.
Great defender. They need to get Brandon Ingram back, and then when they do, I think with their length and the way that they play, they're going to be a tough out in the first round. That's kind of how I foresee that going.
Yeah, I would agree. I absolutely agree with you there because they're a good team, veteran leadership. And I know it's always tough to lose when you're a Blazer fan, but it's always nice to watch CJ. And you're reminded, what you said about Dame just the other day, about next time you get a true star, you're going to really cherish it because once it's gone, you realize how good it was. I think CJ is another one. It made sense just because the way the roster was, how if you needed to move on from someone to bring, he was always the one that was going to be traded. But when you watch him play, you're like, we were treated to a really darn talented guard for a very long time.
I'm not going to nitpick my stars anymore. It's not happening. I'm not doing it.
I like that. All right, the fifth quarter rolls on here on the home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. When we return, we'll head down to the coach's corner, hear what Coach Billups had to say following this 110-100 loss to the Pelicans. Chris Burkhardt here with Chad Doing on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620.
Chad here from
down to the press area from just a few minutes ago where Coach Phillips had a chance to talk.
Chauncey, what have you seen from these guys now that, weirdly enough, this is a group you've probably had together the most consistent this season? It seemed like New Orleans threw that 2-1-2 out there to start them off, and it caught them a little off guard, but not like it did earlier in the season. You had DA on duck ends and Chris cutting through, pulling guys up, and they looked more functional against stuff that they hadn't had a ton of looks against.
Yeah, we were prepared for that. New Orleans plays the most zone of anybody in the league, so obviously we went over that at shoot-around this morning. I would say to you earlier, a month or so ago, maybe a month and a half ago, I would have to call a kind of quick timeout and draw up where I want them at, the timing of the play. Now I can just kind of let them know, which zone play we're going to run, and they kind of understand the reads already, which is great, And sometimes we executed properly and got good shots, and sometimes we didn't, and we turned it over. But they know what we're supposed to do, and that's progress.
How would you explain Scoot's night? Great first half, career high 15 assists on the night, also career high 8 turnovers.
Yeah, I thought he played good. I had to play him too much. I had to play him way too much. And having him out there, just having the ball in his hands, he probably got a little tired. But I thought he made some great plays. The connection that he and DA had out there tonight was really good. I think one of the reasons why they went and played so much zone was because they was having a tough time, with Scoot and with DA and our man-to-man stuff. So, Willie did a good job of switching that up. But I thought Scoot did a good job. Obviously turned it over too many times in this game. Some of them I could live with. I told him that, like, there was one or two in the first half where he's seen things trying to hit DA over the top. I can live with those turnovers. It's just there was a stretch there where probably 5 of our guys were just rushed. They were just like frantic, just all over the place. And I'm like, everybody just relax. Those are the ones that you like, we'll get better with that.
Is it good to kind of, between tonight and the last few games of the road trip, is it kind of good to see him ending the season on a positive note, given kind of how up and down it's been for him?
Absolutely. After, I think it was the Miami game, where it was a rough game, I said to myself and my staff, it's really important to me that I got to get Scoot going here. I can't let him end the season like that. We got to get him going. And to his credit, he's always focused and locked in, but he's turned it around pretty quickly, and is playing at a pretty good level right now.
Chauncey, on that note on Scoot, making those, or having some troubles in the second half, is it nice to actually see, though, even though the struggles aren't necessarily what you want to see, he's advancing past that first read? Because it looked like New Orleans was taking away those reads the first reads in the second half. They made their adjustments on the duck ends, and Scoot wasn't able to quite progress to that next level, but he was seeing the first and the second, maybe not the next progression. But
yeah, what I thought he did, in particular in the first half, that I thought that it'd take him a while to adjust to, is New Orleans does something with their pick and roll coverage a little different than most teams. Is they bring their low man all the way up, especially with DA being so good in that pocket. They bring him all the way up to the free throw line, and that's where we like to get. So he did a really good job of adjusting to that coverage quickly. Hit a couple guys in the corner, hit a couple guys on the pull around. I was really happy to see that, and in the second half, obviously, it was a lot of zone stuff, and they was kind of at the level, kind of blitzing the zone reads a little bit. So he struggled a little bit with that, but those are things that 6- and 7-year veterans will struggle with, by the way, not just 19, 20-year-old rookies.
Hall of Famers?
Hall of Famers too. I was having 9 turnovers at that time, so I had one more than him.
Can we tell you too, Chad, that Chauncey's a liar? You know, I don't like calling Coach up. He's an absolute liar. He lied to all the media. He lied to all the fans today when Fentress asked him, "Does it feel different now that you're a Hall of Famer?" And he's like, "No, doesn't feel different." No, you're a liar, Chauncey. You know it feels a little bit different waking up knowing that you are in basketball immortality, basketball heaven, as you said. You're a cool guy. I get it. You like to play cool. You know, cool's the other side of the pillow, right? But you're a liar. You know it feels different to be a Hall of Famer.
Now when he walks in a room with other basketball greats, he's at a different table now.
Yeah?
The Hall of Fame table.
That's a great way of putting it. It is.
And he'll be referred to for the rest of his life as Hall of Fame basketball player Chauncey Billups.
Oh,
that's a big deal.
That's a big-time deal.
And it's amazing how many people love and respect Chauncey for the way he played. I can't find one person to say something bad about him. He connects with people. What a terrific player. And he played it the right way. He was tough, and he was focused on whatever the team needed to win. You know, you were mentioning earlier about Scoot. You know, that's what you want Scoot to become. You're right. If you play with a point guard that will share the ball and find you in the spots where you can have success, guys will want to play with someone like that.
Absolutely.
Just like they did Chauncey.
If you were a Hall of Famer, you pick the sport. What Hall of Fame you want to go into?
The Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Pro football.
Or Cooperstown, because it's tougher to get into those Hall of Fames than it is basketball.
Yeah, people get all up in arms about the Basketball Hall of Fame, but they forget it's not an NBA Hall of Fame. It's a Basketball Hall of Fame, so it takes everything into account and all that. And I would go Cooperstown, or even though it's small, if you could put me next to Mariota and Polamalu at the Polynesian Hall of Fame.
You'd be okay with that?
I'd be okay being in the Polynesian Football Hall of Fame. Can I get in as a contributor, so a radio voice? I talked about this on the radio today. I said I got to talk to Dwight. Like what do I got to do to get in the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame? Darn it.
Dwight would love to be in the Hall of Fame as well as a Kurt Gowdy recipient.
Yeah,
that'd be a big honor for him.
It would be. All right, 3 games left. No expectations, right? It's just sit here, see what happens, get some run, and put this one to bed, because I'm ready for the offseason myself and figure out what the heck's going to go on.
I'm ready for golf season. So, yes, let's get through
this.
Okay,
before we go, I'm going to tell you this, and you're never going to invite me out to golf with you because you're like, yeah, that's ridiculous. I like golfing. I love getting out on the course. Unfortunately, I don't get out enough, right? So I only get in the amount of times I get in during the summer, I could probably count on one hand. So my golf game never truly improves, and my friends put up with me. We went golfing the other day. The course was terrible, by the way. We were out in Oregon City, and we eventually just made a rule that if your ball is within a club of the hole, it just counts. Because my buddy had a 2-foot putt that was straight, and he putted it, and we watched the ball end 2 feet to the right. The greens were awful. Anyway, neither here nor there. But my final score, Chad, I was only plus 46 that day.
All right. That's
now,
what I'm talking
my
about.
My wife looks at me. My wife, love her to death. She goes, God, you'd think when they play with you, they might be able to double par or something, you poor sap. I'm just like, oh, my gosh.
You got to love that. You got to love it when the wife is
salty,
busting you on that.
I love the game. I am getting better, though. It used to be a lot worse than plus 46. So I want to go golfing with you, but I got to trust my game first. All right, that's going to do it for us here on the 5th quarter. We'll be back at it on Thursday.